This was an attack on America. And I am so frustrated, even if you don't agree with President Trump, I am so frustrated by the political violence that, to your point, Brian, seems to have become almost celebrated on this country in many halls of politics.
Yeah, it's institutionalized and normalized. And here's where the break is for me. I agree with you. Something's definitely gone wrong because self-awareness. I was an angry youth, broken home, divorced family. Sports were my outlet, but never once did I think about violence against others. And I think, to your point, this has become the norm. You don't have to search very far for the ideas. And we always talk about, we're parents here, we always talk about the malleability of youth, right? Toddlers, teenagers. What we're seeing now, it's still very malleable in the 20s and 30s, right? And we have to be paying attention as a society of the messages we're sending because, yes, under the banner of Jimmy Kimmel, it's comedic. No, it's actually tragic what you're saying. You're glorifying the widowing, the murder of a public figure. It's gone too far. I think for me, though, the data comes down, what can you do? How can you change the culture? You can't. You're not going to be able to do that fast. What you need to do is provide more protection, right? If you look at the number of threats against key figures in D.C., it was up 50% last year. This is becoming, remove the political debate, this becomes a security and a budget debate. You need more funds to protect because this is the world we live in.
Or just the funds you're supposed to have to protect. We obviously haven't talked about DHS yet today, but I just add that, Dig. And Secret Service is supposed to get paid in a certain way. It's not, but we still expect them to do their job. That, to me, is a big problem. But if Iran's coming to you and saying, we want you to end the blockade and we want to get the Strait moving again. If Iran's coming to you...
They're crying uncle.
Yeah, they're desperate. So in that situation, do you want to give them what they're asking for, or do you take that as a signal to tighten the screws even more?
No, I think you tighten the screws. I think to Dagan's point, the president is in control. We do have all the cards. We talk about 16 to 60 days worth of storage that maybe Iran has before they need to really start figuring out ways to sell oil because they don't have anywhere else to put it. I mean, this, for me, and maybe this is the wrong analogy, but remember the Monty Python Search for the Holy Grail, the Black Knight that loses his arms and his legs and is still trying to keep people from passing?
Merely a flesh wound.
Yeah, it's merely a flesh wound. No, Iran, it's much more than a flesh wound. And the president knows the position he's in, so I think he was right to postpone these talks. They're coming to the table. It's a non-starter to say, oh, yeah, we'll reopen the Strait and then we'll kick the can down the road on nuclear talks.
Apple. Wait for it. Lou and Brian, I do this for you. An analyst reported that industry checks indicate that OpenAI is collaborating with Qualcomm to develop specialized smartphone processors, maybe trying to take on AI. The partnership is aimed at developing hardware to advance on-device AI capabilities.
Can you translate that? Does that mean
all roads lead to Apple? Because right now we're dealing with AI systems that are on separate devices. But guess what Apple owns? I don't even have it. You have an Apple device. It's like a 13, isn't it? That's where AI compute is going to get done, and that's how Apple's going to own AI.
This is not going to do any AI.
They don't have to worry about. You get specialized silicon that comes out and specialized chips that Apple owns, and it can do the compute on the edge. It becomes a privacy issue because then now OpenAI doesn't know what I'm doing because it's on my device. All the calculations are happening there. So I think this is the big thing that everyone is underestimating with Apple.
And Apple's been a lot stronger than Qualcomm. I'll just say, I mean, Qualcomm, amazing company, but its stock, even with this bump, is still down about 12% year to date.
But you don't think that this would take on Apple? If this is going to be the first AI smartphone.
But Qualcomm's been a provider for Apple forever until Apple decided to take on its own modem chip. So Apple is never the first. They're never the leader. They're the laggard, and then they become the leader, right? They're the person that sits back when the race is unfolding. They're the tortoise that ultimately wins. They're not the hare that's out of the gate.
AI, by its very nature, is non-deterministic, and that is one of the reasons that Apple has not bet the farm on it, because it can't control the outcomes. That will never change. So why would Apple, down the road, make a bet and be the leader in AI? Because it means taking a risk it's not willing to take.
They're just going to be the leader in providing it. It doesn't matter. They're AI model agnostic. We don't care what AI model you use. We deliver the device that you're going to use it on. Just like Perplexity. Perplexity doesn't have a model behind it. It leverages all.
I'll just say this is what's so exciting about technological innovation. This could never happen in government. It could never come up. And none of us actually know what this technological innovation is going to look like. But as long as we have entrepreneurs, I'm optimistic about the future and so many of these great Americans.
building the data center.
American
right now.
companies, yeah.
I don't know, Lou. Doesn't look good for Apple. That's all I see. Coming up,
never does,
the AI
He is trying to drive the rich out, and when the rich leave, he's actually getting what he wants, because then you'll get more of these violent riots on the street, because people are going to be even more pissed that now the bus really isn't going to be free.
Yeah, I think he's trying to drive the wrong rich out, because think about this. For every transaction, you need a buyer and a seller, right? If Ken Griffin's going to sell his penthouse, someone has to buy that. Mamdani knows that, and therefore the tax revenue is going to come in one way or another, even if it's a fire sale. Say you sell at $200 million instead of $238 million, he's still getting his 5% on that. Who's the buyer of that? Someone has to ideologically align with Mamdani to actually make that purchase. So I would side with Brian right out of the gate that it's a hollowing out of the culture of New York, of the center of capitalism, to get what he wants, and then he can do more and more of it.
Yeah, I mean,
a special forces soldier who helped plan the capture of former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has been arrested. He's accused of using classified information to profit from the raid. Master Sergeant Gannon Ken Van Dyke reportedly placed a series of bets related to Venezuela and Maduro, all while he helped to plan and execute the secret operation. Prosecutors say the Master Sergeant raked in over $400,000 in winnings. No small grab on the prediction platform Polymarket. He now faces federal charges, including fraud and unlawful use of classified intelligence. Dagan, I'm going to come to you first on this because I think you probably have some similarly strong feelings like myself. At what point does a prediction market not go from being predicting and really turning into a tool for insider trading?
This is insider trading and novel application of the law. I'm going to throw this open, though, because I think that this indictment is just and necessary. Now, the allegations will play out in a court of law, obviously, but you are putting national security at risk, because if you think about, if individuals who work in the government, who are special forces operators, start betting on missions, and say the chances of, say, Maduro's removal go from 20% to 60%, you're sending the message to our adversaries around the world that, oh, you will now be able to know and tell what the U.S. is about to do in terms of military action by just watching the prediction markets. And it opens the door, if you don't crack down on it, it will lead people in other jobs to try to gain access to inside information, but also to try and steer ordinary events to generate huge windfalls. And that leads to negative outcomes for a broad swath of the population. Yeah. But I was surprised by the reaction among so many people upset with this indictment of there's no victim in insider trading, but there's a very clear victim here.
No, these are taking events.
It's us.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. These are taking national security type events, and because there's no regulation, which I want to throw that ball to you, Jonathan or Taylor, on the regulatory side, right? Like we talked about crypto, how can it be regulated? Is it a security? There's a Howey test that makes it very defined. How do we do this? Because Kalshi is regulated by the CFTC, Polymarket is not. Where's the line that needs to come down on regulation?
I think this is a question of insider information. He had access to information that wasn't his to act on. That was property of the military. That was property of the government. It's not his position like, oh, I had an idea, I'm going to make a bet. He had access to information, private information, that it was not in a position to act on. So I'd like to see that stricken from all elected officials. You know, there's been some suspicious trading around some of the president's tariff announcements. We don't know what type of insider trading is going on. So I'd like to see all elected officials, and even those on the inside, stripped of their ability to speculatively profit from events in real time.
Does this come down to betting against, like, the binary choice versus betting against the House? And I think a lot of people thought this feels better because you don't get the idea that the House always wins. It's like you're in a prediction market. You take either a yes or a no.
Right, but it's devolving into all types of bets, like the number of tweets from Elon Musk between April 26th and May 2nd. I mean, I just looked at the Polymarket stats. There's over 356,000 different bets. How do you regulate something that vast that is now accounting for, upwards of $1 billion a day trading hands?
No insider trading, but otherwise I don't think regulators can touch it, right?
I mean, but here's the question. I'm going to bring it back
they're
to you.
touching it.
What's interesting about these markets is they're meant for insider trading. The point of them, the reason they're more accurate is because people who know make bets. If you get rid of insider trading, then Polymarket becomes no more accurate than anything else. The reason we all rely on Polymarket now is because the insiders are making bets. I just don't understand how it's not categorically prohibited for these things to even host questions of national
Totally agree.
security.
The argument for has been that it separates out the individual events, which you don't have that separation out in the stock market. But my big thing, and I don't know, we got about 30 seconds here, shouldn't trading by politicians equally be banned because they have the same premise as Jonathan has pointed out?
They shouldn't be allowed to trade individual stocks or any other securities, but Polymarket is now one of its exchanges regulated by the CFTC.
It's going to keep happening. Kalshi is definitely, but I don't know Polymarket.
Yes, it is. It bought QCEX, and the CFTC started regulating it last year. Its largest exchange is still offshore.
Dagan's got all the clarity and the fact for both of you and I, and we're out, man. We're getting replaced. That's it for you and me. Stay tuned for the second hour of the Big Money Show.